Hello friends, welcome to Drishti IAS YouTube channel. Myself Abhishek Mishra, and in this video I'll be discussing about Iran and why Iran and US are hostile to each other, and also the reason for hostility between Iran and Israel. Also we'll be looking at India-Iran relations over the years, right? So let us start, and before starting let us look at the location of Iran. So in this map of West Asia, we can see the location of Iran and other important countries in West Asia. So here we have Iran, and let us identify the neighboring countries of Iran. So Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, then we have Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkey and Iraq. So 7 countries are there with which Iran is sharing its land borders, right? So sometimes in exam, because it is very much in news, we can be asked about the neighboring countries. So we should know the neighboring countries. 7 neighboring countries are there, right, with which Iran is sharing land borders. And if we talk about maritime borders, then there are many others like Oman, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait and even Saudi Arabia, right. So the entire West Asian region has come under turmoil because of what happened on 28th of February. So on 28th of February 2026, there was attack on Iran by Israel and also by US, right, and then there has been retaliation by Iran. So the entire West Asian region has come under this conflict, because unlike last year, because in June 2025 there was a 12 days war between Israel and US on one side and Iran on the other side, but that time the conflict had remained limited. But this time Iran in its retaliation has been attacking the US bases in other Gulf countries. So entire West Asia is affected by this conflict. Now the operation which Israel has done, that has been named as Operation Roaring Lion or Lion's Roar, and US has named it as Operation Epic Fury. Epic Fury. The retaliation by Iran has been named as Operation True Promise 4. Right. So sometimes in exam we can be asked about the names of these operations, so we should know this. Now this conflict in West Asia is going to impact the entire world, because a very important water body has also been in news, and that is the Strait of Hormuz. Now Strait of Hormuz has been closed by Iran, and Iran has said that any ships passing through this Strait of Hormuz will be attacked by its navy. So Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf with Gulf of Oman, and it is very important because it's a very narrow channel, but 20% of world's oil passes through this Strait of Hormuz. Right. So that is why it is also very important, right? Strait of Hormuz, we can be asked, and here you can see the location of Strait of Hormuz. So this is this narrow water body here, right? This is the Strait of Hormuz, right? At its narrowest, it is just around 33 kilometers wide. So Strait of Hormuz, very important. 20% of the world's oil passes every day through this narrow channel, Strait of Hormuz. Right. Now let's look at Iran as a country. So Iran was earlier known as Persia. So until 1935, Iran was known by the name Persia. The population of Iran is around 8 crores. The GDP around $413 billion, and Iran has been under crippling Western sanctions since a long time because of its illegal nuclear program, right? So there was a nuclear deal also which was signed in 2015 between P5 plus 1. P5, the permanent 5 members of the UN Security Council, which are US, Russia, China, England and France. Plus 1 was Germany. So these P5 plus 1 countries, they signed an agreement, the nuclear deal agreement, which is known as Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, in 2015 with Iran, which placed restriction on Iran's nuclear enrichment program and made sure that Iran's nuclear program would come under the supervision of International Atomic Energy Agency. Also, it said that there will be monitoring of the program, and in return for Iran complying with the IAEA safeguards, Iran will be allowed to or will be allowed some relief in the sanctions which were imposed on Iran. So the deal was going fine. In 2015 it was signed, but in 2018 Donald Trump, the President of United States, he unilaterally withdrew under what is said to be Israel pressure from this deal unilaterally, right? And since then it has been a downwards slope of this nuclear deal. The deal could not be revived even under the Joe Biden administration. And Donald Trump, when he returned for his second term as president in early 2025, since then he has been more critical of Iran's nuclear program as well as its ballistic missiles program, and he has wholeheartedly supported Israel. And Israel has attacked Iran multiple times, and the latest which has started in February 2026 and last time also in June 2025. So Iran's economy has been suffering because of the sanctions imposed because of the nuclear program. Now the currency of Iran is known as Iranian Rial. The capital is Tehran. Iran is a Shia majority country, and it is one of the few countries in the world which is a Shia majority country. Overall, if we look at the world, around 85% of the people who are following the Islamic faith, around 85% are Sunnis and only around 15% are Shias. Iran is one of the prominent Shia majority country, the others being Iraq and countries like Bahrain, etc. Now the president of Iran is Masoud Pezeshkian. He was elected in July 2024 after the helicopter of the previous president of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, it crashed. So Masoud Pezeshkian is the president, but in Iran we have a system where the religious leadership is having the overall say in the government, right? President is elected president, but he has limited powers. The actual powers are with the supreme leader, right? And in this recent conflict, the supreme leader who was Ayatollah Khamenei, he has been assassinated by US, right? So the supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei, who was the supreme leader of Iran for over 30 years, he has been assassinated recently. Now the process is going on for the successor to Ayatollah Khamenei. Now what is very important about Iran, and maybe in some ways fueling this conflict between US and Iran, is that natural oil resources which are there in Iran. So Iran is having the world's second largest natural gas reserves. and it also has the fourth largest proven crude oil reserves. But very less of it is coming to the international market because of the crippling sanctions that are on Iran. Right. Iran earlier was a US ally. For a long time, Iran remained a US ally, and it was only in 1979, after the Islamic Revolution, that overthrew the Pahlavi dynasty. The last ruler of Iran, the king of Iran, Shah Reza Pahlavi, he was a close ally of the US. But there was this Islamic revolution against him and against his methods, which were considered to be oppressive by the people, and he was overthrown. Since 1979 Islamic revolution, there has been a very there has been this the relationship between US and Iran has gone downhill since then, right? And very tense relationship has emerged between the two sides. Now, what were the reasons for the 1979 Islamic revolution which led to the overthrow of Shah Reza Pahlavi? So, he was considered as a proxy of US, and this went against him. Though he initiated a lot of reforms in the Iranian society, but these reforms were not liked by the conservative elements within Iran. So, there was dissatisfaction with the Shah Reza Pahlavi's regime. It was considered to be oppressive, corrupt, and overly under the influence of US. So, these were the main reasons which united a large group of people in Iran, which included the religious groups, which included the leftist groups, and also various other groups in Iran which were against Shah Reza Pahlavi. Now, all of these groups did not want Islamic rule in Iran, but yes, for the time being, all of them agreed that we need to have one leader in this revolt against Shah Reza Pahlavi, and for that they narrowed down under Ayatollah Khomeini. Right, Khomeini. So, Ayatollah Khomeini, he became the leader of this revolution against Shah, and he became the leader of Iran after the revolution was successful. And the religious groups, they were later able to subdue all other groups which were also involved in the regime, and which actually did not want a Islamic regime. So, what happened in Iran was that one kind of authoritarian government was replaced by another kind of authoritarian government, right? So, the authoritarianism remained the same, only the people who were authoritarian, that changed. So, from Shah, it changed to the Islamic leadership in Iran, right? So, this Islamic revolution led to the collapse of 2500 years old monarchy in Iran, and from monarchy it became a Islamic republic in 1979. Right. So, one reason for the Iran-US hostility is that US supported Shah Reza Pahlavi, and by the Islamic revolution he was removed. So, obviously the person who US wanted to rule over Iran was removed by this revolution. So, there was this bad equation between US and the new Islamic rulers in Iran, and this was further this hostility was further increased by a crisis which happened in Iran after the Islamic revolution, which is known as the Iran hostage crisis. So, after the revolution, what happened? The Islamic leadership came to power, right? And obviously everybody was having this anti-US sentiment in Iran, and especially among the students and the youth of Iran. So, there was this group of students which stormed the US embassy in Tehran, and they took hostage the US diplomats which were there in the US embassy. And this hostage crisis, which involved 52 American diplomats who were taken hostage by the Iranian students, and it lasted for around 444 days, right, until 20th January 1981. and this was very traumatic experience for the US administration, because US being the superpower, it was almost helpless in getting its diplomats released from the custody of the Iranian students. Finally, Algiers Accord. Algiers is the capital of Algeria. So Algiers Accord was signed, under which the US was forced to unfreeze the Iranian assets which it had frozen after the Islamic Revolution, and US also had to give in writing that it will keep out of Iran's internal affairs. So it was a loss of face for US, the mighty superpower, and this animosity has continued since then. Right. So both countries have had no diplomatic relations since 1980. In fact, Switzerland has been the go-between between US and Iran. So whatever US wants to convey to Iran, it used to convey through Switzerland and vice versa. So this is primarily the reason behind the deep hostility that runs between US and Iran. Another issue in this hostility was added in 1980-88 Iran-Iraq war. Now, immediately after the Islamic Revolution in Iran, there was a war which was initiated by Saddam Hussein of Iraq. Now, Saddam Hussein, why he was wanting to fight against Iran? So, the reason is simple, that in Iraq, it is 60-40 ratio. 60% population is Shia and 40% is Sunni. Saddam Hussein was a Sunni, and most of the Gulf monarchies are also ruled by Sunni leaders. So the Islamic Revolution in Iran actually made these Gulf monarchies, and also Iraq and other countries in the West Asian region, they became very suspicious about Iran's intentions, because first of all, Iran was a Shia majority country. So there was this sectarian issue, Shia versus Sunni. The other was Iran, after the Islamic Revolution, claimed that the Islamic Revolution is not going to stay confined to Iran. It will proactively spread it to other countries. So the monarchies, the Gulf monarchies, were upset that maybe the Iran type revolution will happen in their countries supported by Iran, and they will be targeting the monarchy, because as the monarchy was targeted in Iran. So these two reasons, the Shia Sunni conflict and this Islamic revolution being spread to other countries of West Asia, these things alarmed the Gulf monarchies, and they helped Iraq in its fight or war against Iran. So the war continued for 8 years, from 1980 to 88, and Iraq wanted to be seen as the leader of Arab world through this war. The Iraqi regime under Saddam Hussein feared that Shia majority in Iraq will get inspired by Islamic revolution in Iran, and they might try to overthrow Saddam Hussein's rule. So this was the reason behind this war. Now, why Iran and Israel are having problem? So when the Islamic revolution happened in Iran, so there's a big issue in West Asia, which is the Palestine issue, right? So all the Muslim countries in West Asia, they profess their solidarity with the Palestinians. So any country which wants to be seen as the leader of the Islamic world has to prove its credentials by supporting the Palestinian issue. So Iran also took up the cause of the Palestinians, and Iran said that there has been no such thing as Holocaust, right, which was the killing of 6 million Jews in the World War II period by Hitler in Europe. So the denial of Holocaust by Iran, that is seen as a big issue by Israel. Also, Iran has said that Israel does not have the right to exist, right? So Israel feels directly threatened by the nuclear ambitions of Iran, because Israel realizes that Iran is wanting the nuclear capability only to use it against Israel, right. So, there was this June 2025 war between Iran and Israel, and Israel had termed that Operation Rising Lion. The current operation has been termed as Operation Lion's Roar, right. So, the Rising Lion has now started roaring. So, that is the concept, and under this, airstrikes and drone attacks were done on Iranian military and nuclear sites. Iran retaliated by Operation True Promise 3, right, with ballistic missiles attack, and now the current operation by Iran is Operation True Promise 4. And US joined this war by launching this Operation Midnight Hammer, where it used bunker buster bombs against Iranian nuclear sites, Isfahan, Natanz and Fordo, right. So, these three sites are also important. These are nuclear sites of Iran which were bombed by the bunker buster bombs by US. Now, what are the main reasons behind the conflict between Israel and Iran? Because US in this war is basically supporting Israel, and what issue Israel has with Iran. So, Israel and Iran, they have deep hostility since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Okay. Before this, Iran was actually a US ally and Israel also a US ally. So, they had friendly ties. Now Iran views Israel as illegitimate. That means it does not have a right to exist, right. And Israel is a very close ally of US, whereas Iran has animosity towards US. Iran's nuclear program poses an existential threat to Israel, and Iran supports the axis of resistance which is hostile to Israel. So, this term also we should know what is this axis of resistance. So, axis of resistance basically refers to the militias or militant groups which are supported by Iran and which act against US and Israel interests in West Asian region. Let us look at this axis of resistance. So, they are basically supported by Iran, and it includes Hamas in Gaza Strip. Hamas is basically a Sunni Islamist organization active in Gaza Strip. It had launched the October 7 attack against Israel. A very prominent group is the Hezbollah, which is active in Lebanon. It's a Shia group, and it has political arm as well as militant arm, and its army is more powerful than even the Lebanese army. Right? The third being the Houthi rebels. The Houthi rebels, they are active in Yemen, and they are also supported by Iran. They are also Shia. Then we have various Shia militias in Iraq, which are also supported by Iran. The only country which was friendly and which was an ally of the Iranian regime was Syria under Bashar al-Assad. But the regime of Bashar al-Assad fell a few years back, and since then Iran has been left without any friends as such in West Asia, right. So, this is the reason behind the conflict between Israel and Iran. Now, if we look at India-Iran relations, so how have been the India-Iran relations? India-Iran relations have also been like a roller coaster. We did not enjoy very good relations initially when India became independent. Then at that time, around 1947 onwards, Iran was a close ally of US under the Shah Reza Pahlavi's regime, and India being non-aligned. So, we maintained our distance from US bloc, and that is why our relations with Iran was not that good. Once the Islamic Revolution happened in 1979, our relations should have improved with Iran, but again it did not improve because from 1980 onwards, 1979 the Islamic Revolution happened. It came out of the influence of US bloc, but from 1980 onwards there was this Iran-Iraq war, and India had much better relations with Saddam Hussein's Iraq. So, that is why India's relation with Iran did not improve that much till 1988. So, India's relation will start improving only in from the early 1990s, right? But Iran always had great influence on Indian culture. So we had great historical connect with Iran, and till 1947, India, the undivided India, actually shared border with Iran. So we lost geographical contiguity with Iran after 1947. We have had strong historical and cultural ties. There has been influence of Persian culture on Indian language and heritage. From 1953 to 1979, under the Shah Reza Pahlavi's regime, Iran had very close relations with the US, and India was non-aligned, so we did not have very good relations. Islamic revolution in 1979 turned Iran anti-West, but it was followed by the Iran-Iraq war, and India was basically having better relations with Saddam Hussein's Iraq. So our relations with Iran did not improve. Only from early 1990s, we have seen regular exchange of high-level visits between India and Iran. And in 2003, the Iranian president Khatami, he was chief guest. He was invited as chief guest for the 26th January. And in 2003 only, under the Vajpayee government, the Chabahar Port project was initiated. And this project was initiated because it was critical for India to have access to Afghanistan and Central Asian countries, because Pakistan was denying India that access. But in 2005, there was a low point in our relations because India voted against Iran in International Atomic Energy Agency. India has also been critical of Iran's nuclear enrichment program, uranium enrichment program, because India also does not want that the West Asia should be destabilized by Iran's nuclear program. So India supports peaceful nuclear program, but not the nuclear weapons program of Iran. In 2006, UN Security Council imposed sanctions on Iran for its nuclear program, because around 2002, it was revealed by Iranian dissidents who had defected to European countries. They informed the world about Iran's secret nuclear program, and that is when the sanctions were imposed on Iran from 2006 onwards. In 2015, this Iran nuclear deal was signed by the P5+1 countries, permanent 5+1, that is Germany, and it is also known as Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA. It provided relief to Iran from sanctions in return for Iran bringing its nuclear program under the IAEA supervision. In 2016, Prime Minister Modi visited Iran and signed a trilateral agreement to use Chabahar Port for connectivity to Afghanistan. So it was a trilateral agreement between India, Iran and Afghanistan. In 2018, US withdrew unilaterally from the JCPOA. Right, and since then the things have gone downwards. Now, what are the areas of cooperation between India and Iran? So, energy cooperation. India used to import a lot of crude oil from Iran. In fact, it was our third largest supplier of crude oil. But because of US sanctions, India was forced to bring it down to zero. So, at present, India is not importing any crude oil from Iran for a long time. Now, Iran, Pakistan, India pipeline, natural gas pipeline was also proposed, but it is also it has not been materialized. Then we are also cooperating in connectivity projects, Chabahar Port being very important, and international north-south transport corridor, right, which was initiated by India, Russia, and Iran. Now we are also cooperating on security issues. Both India and Iran want stability in Afghanistan. Plus, both the countries are facing common challenges of extremism and terrorism, right? So these are some areas of cooperation: connectivity, security, and also energy, right? But obviously, a major factor in this relationship has been India-US relations. As India and US relations have become stronger, and US-Iran animosity has also become stronger, So, India-Iran relations have been affected adversely. Also, Iran on its part has been making closer ties with or building closer ties with China. If we look at the challenges in India-Iran relations, so we can see India-US proximity plus US sanctions on Iran. US has been following a maximum pressure strategy for Iran, whereas Iran-China closeness, Iran is part of the Belt and Road Initiative of China, which India does not agree with because it includes China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which passes through the illegal POK. Then China and Iran have signed a $400 billion deal in 2020 for 25 years. Also, a Beijing Accord was signed, which was basically China, under the influence of China, Iran and Saudi Arabia, they restored their diplomatic relations. In 2023, right? So, China's influence on Iran has been increasing, and a major reason for that has been US maximum pressure strategy. Then I2U2. I2U2 is a grouping which includes India, Israel, US and UAE, and this grouping is largely seen as an anti-Israel grouping, anti-Iran grouping by Iran. It is seen as anti-Iran grouping, and also the India-Israel relations, right? The close India-Israel relations, they are also seen by Iran as a challenge to India-Iran relations. Now, another factor or challenge in India-Iran relationship has been the reliability of Iran as a partner. So, Iran has not been a very reliable partner for us. At times, Iran has raised the Kashmir issue. It has criticized revocation of Article 370 when India revoked it in 2019, and also in certain oil and gas deals, India has not been given a favorable treatment as India expected from Iran. So, there has been these challenges, but overall the relationship has been largely around the Chabahar Port development project, and in 2024 India signed a agreement with Iran under which for 10 more years India would be operating the Shahid Beheshti terminal of the Chabahar Port, right. So, all of this comes under cloud after this recent conflict between US and Israel on one side and Iran on the other side. So, that will be a challenge for Indian diplomacy. If we look at the Chabahar Port is situated in Sistan Baluchistan province of Iran. Chabahar, the literal meaning is spring around the year, right? Chabahar, jahan hamesha bahar rehti hai. Then first agreement signed in 2003 under Prime Minister Vajpayee. The aim was to bypass Pakistan, find an alternative route to Afghanistan and Central Asia, build India's first overseas port to showcase India's infrastructure capabilities. And in 2016, we signed a trilateral agreement between India, Iran and Afghanistan. And in 2018, India Ports Global Limited (IPGL) has taken over operation of Shahid Beheshti terminal of Chabahar Port, and in 2024 we have renewed this contract for another 10 years. Right, what are the challenges for the Chabahar Port? The US sanctions on Iran, growing China-Iran proximity, and also sometimes difficulty in dealing with Iranian government, right? Sometimes India has faced difficulty in dealing with the Iranian government. Right, so finally let's have a look at the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran nuclear deal as it is known. It was signed in 2015 by Iran and P5+1 plus European Union in Vienna. Right, generally we refer to P5+1, plus 1 is Germany. Now, JCPOA limits Iran's uranium enrichment program until 2030, and it also involves monitoring and transparency measures, right, under IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, right. And the JCPOA was also endorsed by UNSC Resolution 2231, but everything came to naught when US under President Trump in 2018 withdrew from it unilaterally, right? So since then things have gone downhill. Now let's look at this question. The answer you can give in the comment section. What is the name of operation launched by US against Iran on 28th February 2026? Option A is Operation Midnight Hammer. Option B is Operation Absolute Resolve. Option C is Operation Roaring Lion. And option D is Operation Epic Fury. So you can write your answer in the comment section. I'll see you again with another topic very soon. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.